Yeah, now here we are for the session 2 of this 11th Special Steels Convention and Expo. And this session comprises of a panel discussion on future of special steels in India. It's a very interesting subject and has got various dimensions to this subject, as I feel. We have to see from the user's perspective, we have to see from the technology perspective, we have to see from the process perspective. Also, we have some other perspectives are being added by these experts, and we have been very fortunate to have the array of experts with us, starting from Mr. C.H. Sharma, Mr. Rajkamal Srivastava, Mr. Alok, Vashishth, and Dr. Anil Dhawan, Executive Director of Alloy Steel Producers Association. I welcome all of you, and I would first like to introduce all of you, and then we would start with the opening remarks of all of you. So let me first introduce Mr. C.H. Sharma. Mr. C.H. Sharma actually needs no introduction in the alloy steel industry, at least. And he has spent how many? More than, I think, 50 years now, sir. कितने साल हो गए? 51 years in the industry. Many people may not have that age also, and he has spent those many years in the industry. Such a veteran personality and veteran technologist we have with us. But let me introduce Mr. Sharma for benefit of younger generation. He did metallurgical engineering from College of Engineering Pune, COEP से किया है. Joined Mukund in 72 as trainee engineer. Worked in steel plant in the product process development and project to install modern steel melt shop with ultra high power furnace and LRF, VD, VOD, and bloom caster. Actually, not only the history of Mukund, but the history of alloy steel industry is included in this profile of Mr. Sharma. Successfully developed stainless steel in October 79 with no secondary refining facilities, and later on standardizing using VOD process. Also developed processes to manufacture alloy steels with LF, BD. After 15 years of steel melting shop experience, transferred to take charge of technical services department, which was doing functions of QAD, QC, product and process development, and customer service. Continued to head it for 70 long years. During his period, Mukund did development of all special and stainless steel for OEM and export market. He was involved in for 2 years in the joint venture project of Mukund and Kalyani Steel in Karnataka in 1998 as additional responsibility. This plant was with MBF EAOF route with initial capacity of 3 lakh tons per, later expanded to 7 lakh tons. In January 2005, was transferred to take responsibility of Hospet Steel's plant as technical advisor, as senior general manager, and continued till retirement in highest cadre of Mukund Limited till May 2015. After retirement, worked for BMM Ispat 1 year, Nico Jaiswal 1.5 years as technical advisor. Last 4 years working as advisor to SLR Metallics, 0.3 million ton plant producing alloy steels of international quality for domestic and international markets. Have 50 years of steel plant experience and have exposure by training or visits to leading steel plants in France, Australia, USA, Germany, China, and Japan. Great experience, sir, and thank you very much. You are sharing your such a vast experience with all of us. Thank you very much for joining this event and joining this panel discussion. I would like to start with you, and as I said, I would like to have opening comments from all of you. So for our next opening comment, I will introduce that person and then move on to his opening comments. Right now, let Mr. Sharma have his opening comments now. Mr. Sharma, please.
Thank you very much.
I was fortunate enough to work with, not exactly under, but work with Mr. Sharma in Mukund. So that's how we are so much closely associated for so many years. Thank you, Mr. Sharma. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think special steel industry, which just started in say 70s in India with a very small capacity, but I see that in last 20 years, I think we have grown, and I think we are producing about 7-8 million tons of steel every year. And the technology also has changed from a electric arc furnace to now, mini blast furnaces and energy optimizing furnace, or using electric arc furnace as 80-85% hot metal without energy, electrical energy. So it has also changed in technology. The quality of steel, when we started, was not considered good. We used to import mainly from Japan and other countries. But today, I think we are able to make most of the steel in our country and satisfy most of the demand. Also, we are able to export to even very, very, stringent quality of steel to the international market. So even the volume wise, I think we'll be doubling our capacity of total steel by next 10 years. I think special steel will also grow by at least 70-80%. We have a lot of challenges as on today. I will say the cost of raw material has been going up, especially coke, coal. The ferroalloys costs are going up. The demands are not rising as much as we expected, So, but whatever is the capacity, we are more or less able to meet, demands of the customers. But demands have to grow further. One of the more challenging jobs which we have, everybody is, everybody is thinking in terms of green steel, that very, very low CO2 emission or zero emission. So that is going to be the future of our special steel, that we have to, generate minimum of carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, so that we are able to keep the atmosphere clean, So with this, I think these are few challenges which, as we discuss, we can go into more details. So thank you very much for inviting me on panel discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharma, for your opening remarks. And we will have opening remarks from everybody, as I told. And now we move on to next person. He is Dr. Anil Dhawan. And Dr. Anil Dhawan is again a very veteran person in the industry and spent a lot of years in special steels. I will read out his profile. It is very impressive, sir. And thanks very much for joining us. Dr. Anil Dhawan has a very wide and versatile experience in steel industry, both in public as well as private sector. He has experience of more than 44 years in the steel industry, working in various important positions in Steel Authority of India, particularly in marketing of all SAIL products, long and flat, carbon, alloy and stainless steels, and both domestic as well as international trade. Starting his career in the industry in 1977 with SAIL, he superannuated as Executive Director, Marketing and International Trade from SAIL in 2013. After doing his Masters in Electronics and Doctorate in Material Physics from Delhi University, he joined SAIL in 1977. Since then, he has worked as a leader throughout. He has worked as head alloy and stainless steel marketing, Northern region, chief business manager, regional manager, and finally head of marketing and executive director as international trade department of SAIL. He was with Visa Group briefly before joining ASPA as director since 2016. He has represented steel industry in various delegations, committees, which work closely with various industry chambers and confederations, associations like CII, FICCI, Foundry Association, and Sponge Iron Industry, SIAM, ACMA, etc. He has very closely worked with primary steel sector and secondary steel sector and taken issues with all agencies concerned for benefit of steel industry. He has widely traveled to various countries, namely USA, Canada, Brussels, European Union, France, United Kingdom, Spain, Italy, Geneva, of course, is in Belgium, Switzerland, Thailand, UAE, Ceylon, Bahrain, Myanmar, and Singapore in connection with business and commercial dealings. He has an IIM Kolkata certificate in international trade program at Indian Institute of Foreign Trade, New Delhi, Industrial Economics of Steel at Fordham University, New York, USA, and Advanced Management Development Program of MDI, Gurgaon. He also continues as director with International Steel Business House, SMTL. And here is Mr. Dr. Dhawan. Dr. Dhawan, please share your great experience with us and guide the industry. Dr. Dhawan.
Good morning and thank you, Mr. Chandekar and the Special Steel Convention Expo for giving me the opportunity. Heartiest congratulations first for recognizing this as a sector which is generally it gets hidden behind the bigger commodity sector and everybody talks, and I think I must compliment you and must be your background in alloy steel which has brought this aspect. I also started my career in 1977 joining in alloy steel at SAIL when there was this plant of alloy steel plant, Durgapur perhaps is the oldest plant. And yes, Mukunds were there and very, very few people were there. And I have the best opportunity of meeting Mr. Rahul Bajaj, the late Mr. Bajaj, to get orders for alloy steels. ESP Durgapur sat outside his office for hours because we were in public sector and the private sector was more I'll say aggressive and commercial, and they would give instant decisions. And then at the end, he said, "What price can you give?" And my answer was, "What price you want? I've got a clearance on a dotted line." So the first purchase order from Rahul Bajaj Saab, late legend, we were working with the steel on Hindustan Motors and Fiat and others. Now, coming to today's context, I think you can be, I would like to share that on behalf of ISPA. We are proud to mention that today we have a very, very special place in all ministries, all chambers, whether it is CII and FICCI. Even yesterday, the PMO's office and the DPIIT, when they conducted a manufacturing seminar, we had the opportunity to put questions to Steel Ministry, Niti Ayog as ISPA, as well as the Honorable Minister, Mr. Piyush. And that is where I think the special steel today is. And the very fact that the PLI scheme of steel is termed as specialty steel, it adds further the importance to the segment, even though the specialty steels, the alloy steel part of it, I think there are categories given. All of you would know that all those categories are there. There's a good allocation. And therefore, that becomes the fulcrum. And we were invited by the secretary himself day before yesterday, myself, Mr. Pranab and Mr. Sachijan from Bardhaman Steel, and earlier they were invited to make it a very strong scheme. So I must say that there is a very bright future for alloy and special steels in this country. And we in ESPA, we have almost 95% plus capacity registered with us. And I think that is a very great news. And I'm very happy to announce even GSL has joined ESPA just last two weeks ago. Now that shows the window to the world from alloy steel industry. ESPA has come a long way. When I was in alloy steel plant, I joined the first ESPA meeting in 78, 79. So it is a very historical moment for me. Coming to the main the issues, as I mentioned, the alloy steel industry today, 12 to 13 million ton capacity constitutes about 10% of the total capacity that we have. Now, that capacity, withstanding the demand, still the real demand of alloy steel, what we call as alloy steel, and which does not mean carbon steel of any category, is something like 7 to 8 million tons today. Now, there are studies which are there. We have, ESPA got associated with all the studies of Steel Ministry, JPC, their consultants, and we have in realistic manner the demand from all sectors of end users of alloy steels. We have also got the demand from all end users. Our flow is from end users above, based on various factors in the form of various sections, like rounds, bars, and even for forging industry, the billets. So we have got now, after a long time, this specific study done on alloy steels demand through agencies, recognized agencies engaged by the ministry. Therefore, they are all authentic. Secondly, I think many of you would have known our biggest issue have always been on imports. If you pick up any statistics of the government at anywhere, highest import is in the alloy steel category. And that is where we had gone to the government and asked them, you start monitoring this. These FTAs like Japan, Korea, they are the people who manufacture but dump in India at zero duty. So China, we got anti-dumping duty imposed in the last 3 years. And therefore, even this demand needs to be protected, and all of us will have to work together. Today, we have about 18, 19 members. Each one of us monitor imports, any grade which is imported. You must have heard Mr. Paramjit Singh and Mr. Bhardwaj. They have all the time supported us in stopping imports of the grades and sizes which are manufactured in India, which has a capability of getting produced in India. And you will be pleased to know, with the active help of SIAM and ECMA, where we are working together every quarter we meet, the localization has reached almost 100% in case of Tata's, and the rest, it is almost 97, 98%. Therefore, we have achieved a lot, but then you see what is the mission in ahead. The ministry has already come out with a paper which says India will go to 250 to 300 million ton capacity. Within that, if we look at and if we are in sync with that industry, and we are attached to auto and defense, and of course there are other segments, construction is there, so railways is there. So if we attach ourselves and find out as to where we would be, according to us, even if the GDP growth is only 6.5%, in next 3-4 years, we should be reaching at 12 million tons demand. And by say 31, 32, we will have 20 million demand, and 7% growth, it goes to 13 million and 22 million. And if it is 8% GDP growth, it is 14.6 or 15 million tons by next 3-4 years, and 25 to 27 million tons by say 30. Now, keeping that in view, from the existing capacity of 10 to 12 million tons, we will be growing to 3 times. Now, but that is what is envisaged. From the consumption point of view, as Mr. Bhardwaj also mentioned, and many of you, Mr. Vishweshwaran also mentioned, the auto sector, which is our main bread and butter. Auto sector is going through a transitional phase. Now, what is that transitional phase? One is environmental standards, lighter vehicles, safer vehicles, and the last but not the least is the EV segment coming and replacing the. And you have heard the eminent speakers in the session, how it is going to affect their demand. But yes, it does not debar us from expanding to make sure that we in alloy steel industry as a group, as a producer group, always make sure whatever is needed now, 5 years from now, there would be a technological shift, there would be a disruption in the technology, but we will have to maintain that we meet the 100% demand. Now, having talked about auto sector, it will not be complete unless we talk about the chip situation. Auto sector is very closely linked to chips, and we have been overlooking this. And today, because we have been affected from the wrong side, because of lack of it and not because of lack of demand of vehicles, I think we somewhere have to get associated directly or indirectly with this aspect also. On behalf of Vespa, we have already put it to the ministry. We have also brought it to the Department of Industry as to see, for no fault of ours, if we get affected, certainly you will have to look at it. Having mentioned about all this, latest PLI scheme, I must, in 2 sentences, I'll say, it has brought in the enthusiasm in the alloy steel producers to invest in good amounts and towards making sure whatever is required in the domestic industry is manufactured here, at the same time keeping a provision for great effort towards exports. You see, in the yesterday's meeting, we have put across that the country is going towards Atmanirbhar on alloy steel, long steel product, 100% in terms of capability, capacity, and quality. We talked about quality issues, and everybody's going. We are also going all hog to make sure there are BIS qualities, whether you call it NTBs or otherwise. There are quality standards. Nothing beyond that can be imported into India. But we are also capable of meeting international standards for auto segment, for even defense, for manufacturing star wire and others. And therefore, there should be support by the government to this industry for enhancing exports, so that whatever extra capacity is there ever, we can utilize this. I think with this, I can only mention that there's a bright future ahead for alloy steel, and the percentage of alloy and special steels in the overall production and capacity in India is definitely going to go up, notwithstanding whatever geopolitical situations come. And we are hopeful that a 6 to 8% minimum growth on alloy steel is definitely there in next 10 to 15 years. And where this is only, I can only say I'm proud to be associated with this industry. I have given 44 years of my life career, whatever you say, to this industry, and I'm very happy to serve that, the cause of the specialty steel. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Dr. Dhawan, and very assuring statement from you that 6 to 8% growth is assured for next 10 to 15 years. That's very, very heartening to know, actually. Sir, one question actually I had in mind. When we do FTAs, free trade agreements with other countries, most of the time they are politically motivated. Nothing wrong in that. I mean, for many political reasons, one has to do FTAs with, to build relationship with many countries. But in that process, does the industry get, neglected? Because a lot of FTAs have proven to be, detrimental for the growth of domestic industries. And this happens in case of aluminum, copper also. This happens. You mentioned this happened in case of alloy steel also. That some countries are able to put in their material into our country, dump in a way, dump in our country without any custom duties. So is it not detrimental to our domestic industry?
Absolutely right, and on the dot, you have mentioned it. It is actually, we have proved to the ministry that it is an imbalanced situation where they can put in anything in steel into India at zero duty, where we cannot export because they have put in a lot of barriers into it, even if you may say it is zero duty. So what actually we discussed this with all ministries, and one of the major points which have come up is, okay, you cannot dump anything and everything into the country. First, it has to be BIS compliant. That is very, very important. So if you can make our steel go there very difficult, it has to be made difficult here also. Yes. And secondly, just because somebody wants to import it, that is why, whether it is Korea or anti-dumping duties were applicable to them. Now they have been suspended for whatever reasons, but they were applicable to them. So we have done everything possible to ensure that BIS standards, even Secretary has helped in telling that, okay, we will not clear any grade for imports unless the alloy steel producers mention that it is beyond their purview. As far as commodity steel is concerned, which is a major chunk because a lot of HR coil, etc., is imported. I think as of now, the situation is subdued because the overseas prices are much, much higher. But even Minister, Commerce Minister, he also feels, and you would have seen in the reports, that they have tried to remove steel out of their the list of items covered under FTAs. But we get affected because, when the negotiations take place, they will take out certain items which we need into the country. This is going on. But yes, the world knows India is very alive. And more importantly, as per and alloy steel producers are not going to allow a single grade or a ton which can be produced within the country. But your point is valid. FTA has to be opposed at all levels.
Yeah, because now India is a big market and everybody wants to enter into Indian market and participate in our growth. So everybody is welcome, but at a price.
No, but here one thing I will add. I think Mr. Bhardwaj did mention, I don't know, or but Mr. Paramjit Singh did. See, alloy steel producers have gone a step ahead. They have offered collaborations to most of the OEM manufacturers and those plants, because they have their corresponding plants, to go for collaborations in India, like Sunflag has one. The other day, Mr. Sachit Jain, Vice Chairman of Vardhan, he is telling that he has also got it. Then, so people now are finding it is easier to come and collaborate with the alloy steel producers and spend money here, utilize, because we have sources, iron ore, SBI, it is all here. Most of the ferroalloys other than nickel, etc., is all here. So they know that when the raw material is here, collaborate with these people or put plants here. And that is where ASPA has scored in the last 5-7 years by convincing that come, if you want to put some facility, come here. They make the facility here because manufacturing and demand for cars, demand for vehicles is here. The market is here. So why bring it here? And we'll make sure if we make it, we don't allow that steel. That is absolute one ground line for the importers, for ministry, from everybody. We will not allow a single ton of steel into the country if it is produced in India. And if it is produced, we will send the list of grade. And if somebody is importing, even a trader, it will be reported, where. So we are absolutely open-minded on this. And our stand is very clear. And that is why you would have seen there's a lot of pressure on it. Thank you. It was a very, very valid and very relevant question.
For domestic industries point of view. And thank you very much, Dr. Dhawan. I would like to call upon our next expert, Mr. Rajkamal Srivastava. Mr. Rajkamal Srivastava also has spent, if not 40s, but 35 years at least. 30. How many years, Rajkamal?
Yeah, more than 35 years.
More than 35 years in the industry. So he had a long inning with Jaiswal Nico. Now he is president at Jindal Steel and Power Limited and in charge of head of marketing for wire rods and bars rounds. So has a vast experience in knows entire industry in and out. And I would call upon Mr. Rajkamal Srivastava to make his opening comment. But Mr. Rajkamal, as Mr. Dhawan has told, you better be prepared for some more competition now. So many players are coming in the country. So anyway,
today the play field is globe is the play field.
Yeah.
And it's a real business when it comes to marketing. You have to market your product wherever you get your best realizations.
Yeah. Anyway, your opening remarks, Mr. Rajkamal.
Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chandekar, and greetings to everybody participating in this 11th Special Steel Convention Forum. I have more than 35, 36 years I have already spent in the industry. And when I started in mid-80s, the furnaces largely used to be the only electric arc furnace and ingot route. Only couple of steel producers, they had this concast route and everything. And any steel plant producing 4, 5, 6,000 tons used to be considered as a big or great steel plant. And steel making largely used to be considered as an art, not a technology. Mr. C.H. Sharma rather will confirm that. There used to be the works manager who will say, no, steel making is an art. So Launder type furnaces, ingot routes, ingot sizes, grain flow, grain lines, all those things used to be considered as a criticality of the component. And the demand in the country was too less, and most of the critical steel used to be imported. But late 80s has really seen the transformations. And India emerged as a good technological proven steel producers through cold charge as well as through mini blast furnace starting from early 90s. And that is how the journey had been. And when we saw a real transformation, or from lounder type furnaces to the latest technology through EOF, blast furnace, and even further very critical application through ESR route, etc. Now, see, I refer in today's context, just I think 18, 20 months old statement or our MD, Mr. V.R. Sharma, has made during COVID, when everybody was saying that industry is not going to improve for next 4 years or 5 years, such a big impact. And there used to be all sort of experts advices from America, Europe. And he said, no, I see a very big growth in recent times. And JSPL has virtually shown people as to how to turn around from crisis to comfort zone, basically. So post-COVID recovery, and which was basically, he said, and that all of us suddenly saw a big demand in all the sectors, basically. But I will say it could not reach to the peak people thought of, or whatever peak it has already achieved. I will also point out one thing, that after the meltdown of 2008-2009, for close to 10-12 years, Indian industry, the prices prevailing in India was higher than the international prices, except in last 1 year, when we have really seen that international prices are moving higher than our domestic prices. And that gives us an opportunity to look beyond whatever the steel consumptions we are having here in India, and we can really have a great gateway for exports. One more thing, that we all talk largely automobile industry. When we say special steel industry, yes, automobile, but we need to look beyond the auto industry, the special steel industry for different applications as non-auto, and other so many great avenues are available where we can really see special steel uses for non-auto application. Now, see, after the third wave, things have started moving. Automobile industry is doing well, and there is we will see a very big shift for export of component also. Lot of components are exported. The industry is actually witnessing 10 to 15% growth, even in export of component to West and Europe. And I foresee this is going to continue even for next 4, 5, 6 years time. Besides, we will have sizable requirement in defense and railway sector. Moreover, the government moves on Atmanirbhar Bharat will further give a boost, or it has already given a boost to domestic industry, to rather, instead of importing things, to export, be it steel, be it component, or for any other application, or with the upgraded technologies even. See, challenges had always been there, as just now Mr. Dhawan said. Challenges had been there for uncertainties, because the industry is highly dependent on automobile, and automobile does well, steel industry does well. Automobile doesn't do well, we always look. So the continuity in the industry we could never witness for very long time, which I feel now the things are stabilizing sizably overall, and I see a very good potential time for domestic consumption, which will increase, and even for exports too. However, with respect to prices, since industry follows the quarterly prices or half yearly prices, and most of the raw material prices are not in the control of industry. So the kind of result the industry expects to derive are not basically in a position to derive. So probably we need to really work on the directions that as to how make industry commercially consistent and better viable. That's where I would like to end my this session, along with semiconductor issue was already raised by Dr. Dhawan. So for you just see, for a small thing, we have to face lot of challenges. The industry had to lower down the production, that automobile industry. So those things are also to be tackled. I think people have also started looking beyond it. So there are so many good opportunities, avenues to look beyond, and I see really a golden future for our especially steel industry. Thank you, Mr. Chandekar.
Thank you, Mr. Rajkamal, for your opening remarks. You mentioned, Mr. Rajkamal, that we have to look beyond automobile industry. Yes, 50% of special steel demand comprises of automobile industry applications, auto components maybe. But what is there beyond? I mean, we talk about defense, we talk about railway, but have these markets, I would say, have matured? Have these markets matured? Because we had 2 defense expos, I think. 2 or 3 defense expos. One at Lucknow, before that it was in Goa, I remember. And recently, in the budget, Nirmala madam has also mentioned that 68% or something, I still remember the percentage of the defense equipment has to be indigenized. So would that really mean some additional business to alloy steel industry? What do you say?
That's what I touched upon, the Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Yeah.
Where we are going to have lots and lots of applications. People are working for it.
Correct.
There's a good sizable demand. See, even today we talk of less weight, as Mr. C.H. Sharma already mentioned, less weight, better reliability, better fatigue value, better life cycle tests and everything. So lot of value engineering, value additions are going on in this direction, either for automobile industry, for non-auto also, like for you take electrode industry, etc. There is a sizable demand in the electrode industry, and a lot of further people are looking to have better and better reliability even in that industry. So there are so many things which are identified by the industry, which has yet to show the results.
But do you think the defense orders have started materializing? I mean, do you regularly get defense orders? People, I mean, not in particular your company. I'm saying about the industry.
Defense always runs a program.
Okay.
And these programs have a very long gestation period. And once the things get stabilized, then the repeatability of the orders and the volume, because then you not only develop it for India, you develop it globally.
Okay.
Yeah, with your permission, Chandigarji, I would just add to what Mr. Rajkamal Srivastava made a very wonderful point that we'll have to look beyond.
Dr. Dhawan, can you put on your video? Now it's okay.
Okay, so I was just saying it is a wonderful concept which we have been talking about and Mr. Rajkamal has brought it very nicely. We have just to avoid volatility, we have to go for applications other than conventional applications like auto and even defense, which gets restricted. I think recently a new thing which has happened, I must share here, and that is the national highways. The budget for 23 is envisaging a very high allocation for infra. I think 7.5 lakh crore. And therefore, the construction steel, it gets a boost for this. We'll talk about anything else. So within constructional steels, what is that alloy steels which is in our basket? And I think that is the requirement of the NHAI as well as the transport, the ministries. They had asked for creating a corrosion resistant steel for construction. And believe me, ultimately a 400 series grade, which is non-nickel grade, has been accepted, notified by NHAI to their engineers that this is the steel for construction segment. It may be in the form of a stainless steel D-bar or a rebar, but as long as it can be made from alloys, I think most of our alloy steel, long steel producers have that facility or can have very easily that facility. If that comes in a big way, it will give a good, big boost to the segment. Thank you, Mr. Rajkamal.
Thank you, Dr. Dhawan.
Thank you.
Yeah, so there are emerging opportunities apart from automobile industry, as you mentioned, and recent budget also, as you mentioned, will support these initiatives from special steels and their will and their eagerness to move ahead of automobile industry. Thank you very much. Now we have our last expert, Mr. Alok Vashishth from Kalyani Steels. He is a metallurgist from MNIT Jaipur and postgraduate business management from Symbiosis, has a journey of over 25 years in steel industry with multiple roles and responsibilities entrusted on him. He gained vast and unique experience of steel industries and associated sectors in both flats and long product, handled almost all products categories by Pan India. To his credentials, he has hands-on experience of various challenges in steel with target-based or solution-based approach. Currently, he is head of sales and marketing in Kalyani Steels with clear focus on special steel for domestic and export market. Before Kalyani Steel Limited, he was associated with Mr. JSW Steel over 17 years in various roles and responsibilities in sales and marketing. We have an expert person in marketing and sales now, who handle both longs as well as flats. And yeah, please, Mr. Alok, your opening.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chandekar, and good morning to all eminent people on this board. And this is really my privilege to get this opportunity to share my ideas and opinion on this. What is really a burning topic for the future of special steel in India. So I start my opening remarks with the agreement with Mr. Anil has already shared. There is a bright future for the special steel in coming times. I agree with this. So because I personally, with my experience of wide exposure in the steel in flats and longs, both last 25 years. So today I'm confident and I see the future of special steel in India are very promising with the GDP rates growth minimum of the 7-8%, whatsoever it may be, next continuously for the next decade. So when India is also emerging as a global supplier in almost all sectors and best alternate, I can say that India is looking as a best alternate by post-COVID challenges world over on account of the many of the disruptions recently we have experienced, like a classical example in chip manufacturing. One more classical example is India is viewed as a preferred destination of all the auto majors. In last 15 years, remarkably, all the auto majors have put up the plant in India. So this is a classical example that India is emerging as a global supplier, global player. So Indian special steel is, we can say, is a proud moment for us, as rightly said before all the eminent speakers. It's unique and distinct that we have come to a certain level, remarkably last 20 years and 25 years, as Mr. Rajkamal told in 80s, we are the electric arc furnaces and from an ingots routes. But now where we have the expansion in the blast furnace routes and many other things, and ready to take a challenge on our shoulder from not from the India, from the world. So this is the special steel really a distinct, in the sense it is also the ready, not only the ready as a good player, I mean main player in the world, global player, but also to take any of the challenges which are coming in India in coming times. With I would like to thank the absolute support of Government of India in many of their initiatives, who has a clear vision to develop a world-class infrastructure in India, which will be needed and which was the must, in fact, to catch up the future growth, which will be unfold in many of the, or I can say the almost all sectors. So especially steel now need to have a national collaborative approach, as rightly mentioned by the Ministry of Steel Ministry and other panels. The future ready now, especially steel, is the must for us, and various approaches we can have to take this future, to make this future coming time is a growth of the growth future in as a reality. We have to make a trade-offs. Somebody says value or volume, but I say we have to make a combination of these two, volume as well as value, both. So how this volume and growth will come? So most of the things already have covered by earlier speakers. So I will go in detail a little bit more in this, so that because most of the things have already covered. So those growth, what are the indicators for those volumes? One is the benchmarking. Once benchmarking means or comparable, we can say, or contribution to the not only India but to the world economy, especially in the steel, this session in particular steel. So what is benchmarking is per capita. So per capita installed capacity, per capita consumption, per capita, for example, the export, per capita contribution. This is the kind of things. Second benchmarking is the comparable or contribution means the percentage. What is the percentage of particular grade, particular segment in the world economy? Example, the bearings we have, to best of my knowledge, I think we have 3 to 4% of the bearing grades percentage share in the world bearing market. So this shows that there is a huge gap, and huge gap means huge growth coming in our fold or expected to come in India. Second is the second benchmarking, second approach is the target-based achievements. So target-based achievements are mentioned basically in the steel mission. For example, the National Steel Policy, National Steel Mission, for example, energy mission, then national automobile mission. In those things, in those missions, it has been clearly defined what will be the growth coming in our fold. Example, in National Steel Policy, it is defined 300 million tons. Likewise, in National Auto Mission, they have defined a huge target for the automobile industries. Likewise, in the renewable energy, they have put the target of 500 gigawatt. So there's a huge requirements of the steel as a backbone. It has proven in last 30 years steel and more than that. So this shows that the target-based achievements means we have various kinds of the growth and huge growth coming in our fold. Third is the import substitution. As rightly said, it's more concerned as for the specialist is concerned. As it is already mentioned by earlier speaker, that 70% import of total import in steel is in specialist steels. So again, this is the point of getting a confidence that growth will come. Last two more important things are localization efforts by automobiles. Already we have capitalized all the steel companies and are in the process through for example, approval process. Approval of the majority of our specialist steel plants have been approved by automobiles. So localization will be the best direction for us as far as growth is concerned. Then the export hub India can be. This is a huge fillip from the government side, and all the eminent ministries have already give the good amount of the focus in this to make India as an export hub. So especially steel will not keep behind. Lastly, but more important is carbon neutral based industries. So we all are aware, as we all be focusing on renewable energies. So the coal based now energy will be the vanished, or it will be in the least preference. So solar based, then wind power, then hydro, nuclear, biomass. So many of the steel grades which are not produced in India in this particular carbon neutral based industries will have a good and extremely important or high potential. I will share in my introduction with the panel when the opportunity will come today. in the detail further, that few of the grades we have developed, and you will not believe it will have a contribution, very high contribution, even the more than 30%, 35% contribution, whereas the normal grades has a contribution of 20%, 15%, 10%, or sometimes it is a little bit to 25% in few grades, nickel base, we can say. So this is a growth. What I have in opening remarks, I put up the growth. I'm very optimistic, very confident. This growth especially steel, will definitely come. Of course, there are various challenges regarding details. I am not going, but I'm just touching few bullet points. For example, challenges from the alternate materials, maybe the carbon fibers or other plastics and others. Then EV adoption. Then changing of the customer needs are changing, evolving every day. Then sustainability, raw material supply, and lifelong support for each increasing the capacity. Then movements of the huge raw materials within the India, logistic challenge, scalability challenge, then cost per ton challenges. So these all are challenges we will discuss later in this. Particularly, I would like to include one important point here to open the idea for all of us on this board. First is the EV. We can define, four things. So steel in EV is basically used in four major sections. One is the body of the automobiles, then the engine, then suspension, and then transportation. So in this particular, when the EV onslaught of the EV, which is must, whether it is a last mile connectivity or whether it's a two-wheelers, it is or is a PV, even the motorcycles, even the tractors. Ashok Leyland has already announced they are coming into tractors for the EV tractors. So barring the CV, where CV will take a more time, maybe the 4 to 5 years further to the electric vehicles coming in the CV section. So in this body, engine, suspension, transmission, engine will more or less will go out. Body will remain, but alloy steel percentage in the body is very limited, where the flats are more in HR or CR. I worked in the flats, so I can comment on this. If anybody has a question, I will answer those during the session. Engine will go away, suspension will remain, and transmission will remain. Some forms of will change. When we say the suspension transmission body will remain, then there is one more challenge is whatever the black bars which we are producing will have a less acceptability in the market when the EV will come. So precision rolling and peeled bars, bright bars, they will come into the picture. They will get its growth. Second, the cold forging is a new buzzword. Now there are huge investment in the cold forging. There also we need a upgrade our technology as far as steel making is concerned. So these are the few challenges which I have mentioned. There's another 4 to 5 challenges during the session I will discuss, like the cleanliness of the steel, the requirements, these all other technological upgradations, capacity, then capability. These all other things we will discuss through in our session. So with this, I will just complete my opening remarks, and many more to come, and wish you all the great success for this session. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alok, and with very insightful opening remarks. You mentioned about the growth opportunities in export. So can you elaborate a little bit what export opportunities, where are the emerging markets or something like that?
Export market, for example, today, what the percentage of export is very, very less from the India as far as steel is concerned. Hardly it's a 3%, 4%. That has to be increased to 10%. First, this indicates the volume. Second, the many of the automobile industry across the world, they are looking the India as a best alternate because the cost of production is very less, labor is cheap. So I will not name right now, but I'm in the discussion of the 3 major global players in last 6 months, and one we have concluded just last week. Okay. They need 30,000 tons of the steel per month, their consumption, and they are in in the gearing gears across the world. They are supplying. They are German-based majors. So this is a one classic example I have told. Likewise, the many of the automobile industry, they want the Toyota. They are looking many of the grades to be developed in India, and they want to export from India. They want to make in India, and they want to export it. So this is a classical example. The huge export requirements are there.
Okay. Thank you very much. And
I think it's a very valid statement made. With your permission, I'll just add one more thing.
Please.
I think both Mr. Rajkamal and this gentleman from Kalyani, they have brought up a very important issue on the exports part of it. And there we can add this component, auto component. PLI scheme is also there for auto sector, which is a very vast outlay. It is much bigger. It is in thousands of crores. And the response is excellent. And the alternative of auto hub has to be in India after the China problems and the now, of course, Ukraine and this Russia, it will more be. So I think industry has to get prepared for this, to support this, and also to create facilities here. Thank you very much.
Dhawan. Thank you, Dr. Dhawan. Very valid point, of course, as you mentioned. And so moving on now, I feel that now you people have been, very optimistic about the future and the prospects of special steels. I'm little bit pessimistic by nature, maybe. But with EV coming up, with Rajkamal, you can also, everybody can comment on this. With EVs just around the corner, say 5-7 years away, they will be coming. And with EV coming in, a lot of engine parts will be replaced by, will vanish, in fact. And with all this, do you see really good prospects for special steels? I think there will be a detrimental growth. Why should if I have to invest my money today in somewhere in steel, should I invest in special steels or not? I will have a second thought. If EV is coming and special steels application itself is diminishing, why should I invest my money in special steels? Mr. Sharma Sahab, आपसे शुरुआत करते हैं.
Yeah,
we'll start with you.
Yeah,
I'm acting devil's advocate now. You prove to me that there is a good prospect for the industry.
Say with EV coming in, if you see the international market of EVs today, the has been on four-wheeler is very slow comparatively. Secondly, people are now going for hybrid cars because they are worried. Suppose in a winter season somewhere the jam takes place and they run out of batteries, charge, then they have nothing. They need a hybrid car. And if you really see between EV and hybrid car and the normal car, hybrid car, the reduction of steel is almost negligible because it has to have.
You have both the systems. So it may be more steel may be required actually.
Secondly, your worries about EV. Let me tell you that the EV requirement of steel may go down by 25, 30% or 35%. But as the EVs will come, at the same time, the growth will also take place. The current requirement of steel will not reduce. Maybe the growth, which will be maybe 8% or 7%, may drop to 4 or 5%. But growth will definitely take place. It will not go out, Secondly, we have to look for our steel, basically join the component industry, hands with component industry, develop components for export. That is where the steel will grow. I don't think Indian steel two-wheeler industry is also getting saturated now. Whether it is EV or others, it will get limited volume now. Same is the cars and others because of some infrastructure. It is not growing very fast as it grew in last few years. So we have to develop our steels basically for component industry, that tie up with the, see today forging industry, which is growing. Also looking at export of components. They are not looking at only the local market because they know it's a limited requirement. But For this, you may need to have some cold forging steels, some annealing capacity, some requirement of you can say tempered quench and tempered steel. And if you really see the PLI scheme, what imports in the country is also similar grades which are getting imported, which is more or value added product, where in India we don't have a capacity to have so much of ball bearing wires or such things which are getting imported, So in my opinion, I don't think the growth will not be there. It will be maybe slow down comparatively. You cannot expect 8% or 10% growth, maybe 3%, 4%, 5%. It will stay. I don't think it will come down. We have deliberated, our owners of the companies have been very much worried on this, that what we should do, whether we should expand or not expand. But in my opinion, we need to expand. There is no problem of selling steel. Maybe the growth will be slow comparatively. This is my opinion.
Maybe, yes, Mr. Rajkamal.
Yeah. Actually, your discussion is largely on four-wheeler.
Okay.
The specialty steel industry is sizably consumed in commercial vehicle, in tractor industry, and in other areas too.
Okay.
See, even in India, this mining sector is reviving, and it is reviving very fast. So there will be a lot of consumption in mining sector, in other infrastructure areas. So I see lot of demand in commercial vehicle segments. I see a lot of even this tractor industry booming even in times to come. You can say last 3 months have been bad, but that has always been cyclic basically.
Yeah.
So, and the growth, you see even today, the growth is suppose 8% and 4% is taken away by the EV. The 4% remains with the present segments. Secondly, very valid point touched by Mr. Sharma, there will be a better time for hybrid vehicles. The hybrid vehicles basically in all the segments, but moving to all through in EV, it has all challenges, which I think the global platform, on global platforms, different people are addressing it. There will be improvement, there will be growth, and that is how I look the component industry. In India, the component industry will have India will be a hub for components, whether for domestic consumption or for exports. You are mute, Chandekar, I suppose.
Yeah,
are you saying something, Chandekar?
No.
Okay. So that is how I feel that industry is going to be very promising. See the different challenges. Even in today we have multiple axles. Road conditions are so good. The load bearing capacities will increase. There is a more and more scope in India for movement of 60 tonners, 80 tonners, 100 tonners, and automobile industries are already focusing on such movements. So see, we are going to have a different dynamic situation with respect to India for our domestic consumptions and for exports. As I already said, India is going to be a potential hub for component suppliers. Thank you.
So you are saying, Mr. Rajkamal, that there is no need to worry, and we are all set for a great leap of in the future.
Right.
Mr. Alok, I will come to you, Dr. Dhawan,
Yes.
last conclusive remarks. But let me ask Mr. Alok also, what has been his experience and what has been his perspective on the subject?
Yeah, I just want to just make a very classical insight in this. When we focus on the EV, of course, I agree there will be the, whatever the growth of automobiles will not will percolate to the steel when the EV will come. Automobile maybe growth maybe 10%, 15%, but still growth will come to 3%, 2%. I agree with Mr. Sharma. But now coming further, what Mr. Rajkamal has told, this steel is basically used not only in the automobile but also in other sectors. Okay. Now government has given a huge fill up or boost up to all the industries. For example, construction, then railways, capital goods, consumer durables, and others. Now think when our capacity will increase two folds or three folds in India, whether the total capacity or whether it is a alloy steel capacity. That means if the movement of that particular huge volumes require the CVs, commercial vehicles we required, because the e-commerce, the last mileage connectivity required. So those movement, railway and logistic, both will get the huge boost up. Because capacity will be the 2 times, 3 times in coming time, next 5 to 7 years. That means if whatever we lose in the EV, maybe the 5% growth, that will be compensated by the 10% or 12% growth from the other sectors. Maybe the construction, builds, marines, all other sectors, the boom will be there. So, for example, railways has to move 3 times of the material as far as the steel capacity is concerned. Steel capacity increase maybe the 3 million tons. That means you have to move 1,200 million tons of raw materials in different forms. That means huge connectivity is required in CVs, railways. That means still we should not be worried only because of the EV. We have to worry.
I understand. Mr. Alok, you tell me what would be the percentage of special steels going in for railways? Say out of 100, how much special steels is going for railways today?
Railways, it is
you tell me. I mean,
especially still, to best of my knowledge, I think it's a 10 to 12% is going in the railway. To best of my knowledge, but others can update this.
And what about defense? Not even that, correct?
No, defense is hardly 3%. 3% to 5%.
3% to 5%. So these sectors, even if you say that these sectors will boom and will have, but they don't constitute much of the demand for special steels. As of
their volume will ramp up, that will create the demand. As he said, today at 120 million tons, when we move to 300 million tons, there will be so much of infrastructure requirement. For moving 300 million tons, you require 1,200 million tons or 1,000 million tons of raw material, for which you require infrastructure in all the corners, all from railways to commercial vehicle to road, everywhere you would be needing the infrastructure, or from
mining.
So see, there will be overall boost, and this boost will bring a lot of requirement in India and for exports too. That's what I think, Mr. Alok, you wanted to say.
Yes, definitely, I agree.
But this is our wishful thinking, don't you think so?
I don't think
this is not a
okay.
perfect.
I think
I would go to Dr. Dhawan. Dr. Dhawan,
yes, I think my time has come.
Your conclusive remarks, sir.
Okay, let me first tell you, I think one of a very, very important aspect which has been forgotten is the implementation of the scrappage policy, which is one of the biggest triggers for the demand for auto sector and in all segments, 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler, 5-wheelers. That is already on, and therefore it is one of those factors which will neutralize the negative factor of EV replacement. Now, this is very important. Second, which I fully endorse what Mr. Rajkamal mentioned and my friend mentioned, is the growth in the country. Yesterday, we were sitting with Niti Yog and Commerce Ministry, DPIIT, and we were all on one line and on the same page. The per capita consumption in the country for steel today is 77 kg. It is bound to go up to 250 to 300 kg. Now, if today in say 77 kg, you are 6 to 7 kg, and as rightly pointed out my other panelists, when you are going for infra push, now infra push is not only roads, infra push is ports, railways, highways, and there are so much of steel into it, and portion of that comes to alloy steel automatically. But there are, for example, you talked about railways. It is more of a, cotton steel, of course, in the flat steel, more of a high end rails, which is there as the specialty steel. It is also into, this springs steels are all specialty steel. So I think this, plus, as my other panelists mentioned, hybrid plus scrappage policy will take care of all your worries, Mr. Chandekar. And lastly, what I would like to put it as a concluding remark, as we said, that this industry has been facing challenges, still it has grown. It has faced challenges of imports, it has grown. It has faced challenges of technology disruption and technology change, it has grown. It has faced the environmental changes of the standards changing, bringing another angle. It has sustained and it has grown. I can assure you it will grow. But still, what I'm going to share with everybody here is the alloy steel producers who are having a very high stake in this EVs and we have undertaken, and Mr. Rajkamal will stand by me and all others who are present, that we have in Alloy Steel Producers Association have taken upon ourselves to appoint a consultant who have already been advised to go into effect of EV coming replacement in future and how it will affect the alloy steel industry. So bear with us. We'll share all your concerns, what you have, replies will come not only segment-wise, grade-wise, size-wise, and not only for one type of vehicles, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, four-wheelers, passenger vehicles, as well as commercial vehicles. So bear with it. We are also fully aware of the impacts which are going to happen, and we'll share with the industry. Our consumers should not be worried about this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Dhawan. I fully agree with you as far as scrappage policy and its effect on special steel is concerned, because we have little life of you have reduced the life of automobile, the demand is automatically grow. Demand will automatically grow. So it will have very, very positive effect on the future of special steels. I do agree. Secondly, I just wanted to, share with you that everybody knows that we have set a target of 300 million tons of steel capacity by 2031. So in that 300 million tons of steel capacity, there is a large chunk for special steels also. I think around 40 to 50 million tons is expected to be rolled out in the special steels category out of 300 million tons capacity. Our thinking should not be so optimistic, that because I feel that 300 million tons to achieve by 2031 is very, very, very difficult. So if that 300 million tons is not going to be achieved, even this 40 million tons or whatever the percentage is allocated for special steel is also not going to be achieved. So to that extent, we have to reduce our optimism. This is what my thinking was. I mean, this is you can comment starting from Mr. Sharma.
I will say that we should assume only 8 to 10% of 300 million. I'm only optimistic of 20-25 million. And what you call special steel, today, maybe we produce a high tensile wire, high carbon, or electrode grade, or cold heading, low carbon grades. These also gets included. So I will say 20-25 million. Maybe today, if you take it, is only 7 to 10 million.
Yeah, so 7 to 8 million tons. Yes.
I don't see more than double. Even if you go take 7% year-on-year growth, so it will get only doubled in 10-12 years. So I'm not optimistic that it will go to 40 million, but I'm pretty sure it will be 20 million of that rate. Basically.
Yeah, by 2030, you are saying that we can go up to 20.
Double the capacity, whatever is today in 8 to 10 years, not more than double, I'm saying.
Okay.
This is I think marketing people, I'm only a technocrat. I think Mr.
Mr. Rajkamal and Mr. Alok will guide us.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, see, regarding this 300 million tons, means you require a lot of greenfield projects. and greenfield project, the gestation period is too long. Right now, what we have witnessed is either the acquisition or the capacity expansions. Even the capacity expansions at JSPL is also there sizably. So my point is that greenfield project, it is having long gestation, but once government has got a vision, they will facilitate industry by the necessary approvals and infrastructure also. And we have to be optimistic on government vision, because see, this is not only the requirement we are talking, that the capacities are being built in India, but it is not for India, it is for the globe, it is for the world. So capacities, the challenges are there for building the capacities, be it greenfield or be it brownfield or be it expansion. But once government is determined, government is facilitating industry, government is taking a lot of initiatives for having that kind of a volume, if not 300 million tons, 280 million tons, 250 million tons, meaning thereby we are going to have sizable growth in next 8 to 10 years time, what we are today. Even if today it is suppose a story of 50 years, so we are talking of making it double in next 8 to 10 years. The kind of infrastructure it would be needing, and not only building that, we are building, and for so many things, with the vision, with the government vision, and with the Atmanirbhar Bharat, we are going to have lots and lots of consumption and production in India, and whatever the production will be there, we will be a sizable exporter. Because today, whatever the steel we are producing, it is a world-class steel we are producing. Yeah. So that is why in last couple of years, we have witnessed lots of reduction in imports, basically on account of technical capabilities on performance of the steels. So what we see, lots of domestic consumption, and government is encouraging even through PLI scheme to have more and more stringent applications, steel production in India. So we are very hopeful, and from JSPL side also, we are expanding very fast in a special steel industry, and with a sizable quantity.
Thanks.
Thank
Before moving to Mr. Alok, I would just like to mention one more thing. You mentioned about greenfield expansion. We don't have our land acquisition law in place, so greenfield expansion is almost impossible in our country today. We have to depend on brownfield expansion, and brownfield expansion has its own limit. That is what my take on this subject. Mr. Alok, your comments, please.
I start with what your last sentence. There is a greenfield. There is a lot of challenges, land acquisition and others. I started from your side. Yeah. Please. Then back to what Mr. Rajkamal told. So this is there is a challenge, of course, in the greenfield. Whatever we have said. But now there is two things. One is the consumer side and one is the supplier side. So what Mr. Rajkamal has told is from the consumer side. What will be the demands? What will be the growth? What will the percentage of the alloy steel in the total steel requirements of India? What will be the percentage of the alloy steel? What Mr. Sharma has told. This is the consumer side. This is very optimistic, and we all are very happy, confident that it will be done. What you are saying is the supplier side. Whether this particular capacity will come into the picture. So this is supply side constraints because of the land acquisition problems, because of environmental problems, because of other things. So these two things, to meet these two ends together, we have to fill the gap through many of the innovative approach. So now I start my comments, what you have said. This is the background, what I just shared with you all. To make this growth reality in our fold, we need to have a very clear vision how to move ahead. In the space of in the form capacity enhancement and capability enhancement. So capability, unless we have capacity, already we have discussed. So capability has to be defined further deeper if we want the realistic growth for us. Capability has to be the innovative capability, then competitive or distinct capability, sustainable capability, then absolute solution based capability. Absolute solution based capability means factoring the environmental impact in totality. So this particular capability can be further defined into soft and hard. Soft means mindset, skill set, the upskill, reskilling, then relearning, unlearning, trainings. This all getting the all technical institution in a collaborative approach with the industry. Hard means technology innovation, technology induction, what Mr. Kamal told. The best of the material performance can only come through the induction of the technological. I have a classical many examples I can share here. R&D focus, percentage allocation is very, very less. So new product developments are with a clear vision of future fit products and services.
So, Mr. Alok, we will come to that technology part later on. I mean, that I'm going to ask you as a separate question. So,
okay. So this is particular, I can say from the consumer point of view, the demand will be definitely be there, and constraints, as you said, will also be have to be addressed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, Mr. Sharma, please.
See, expansion, everybody is thinking, but major issues now in everybody's mind is the CO2 or the carbon footprint today. Which technology to adopt? Because Europe is now shifting to, sponge iron or a DRI route by gas process. Later on, they will go for hydrogen and electric arc furnace with solar energy. So they are thinking of reducing their CO2 emission, which is 2 to 2.5 ton for a special steel, to only 10% of it. They are talking about 92% elimination, and they are just shutting down their blast furnaces. In India, we have nothing, today. Not coal is available, not gas is available, and we have to again go to the blast furnace route because DRI by solid reduction will generate 3.5 tons of CO2. So that is
I was actually coming to that question only.
That's the biggest challenge for a entrepreneur to decide which technology to go, so that because blast furnace lasts for 20, 30, even 40 years. So whether we should put a blast furnace now to expansion or think of arc furnace, later on put a sponge iron or a DRI if gas is available or hydrogen is available. So that is the biggest challenge. I think expansion is in back of everybody's mind is which technology to select now.
Yeah, that is the question I was coming to, because the technology in special steel is also changing very fast. Like
I'll say here that,
just a minute, Rajkamal. People talk about green steel. People talk about, for last 10 years, I have been hearing about micro-alloy steel being developed by different companies in different ways. There is no national specification for micro-alloy steel which needs to be made. So all these things are there. So now you tell me, what is your point?
I think JSPL is working very seriously, very hard on it, and we already have a gas-based sponge iron at our Angul plant. And when we will be interacting with our MD, Mr. V.R. Sharma, and you will get lot many insight on this at both the level, at the industry level and as well as the government level.
Yeah, that is very heartening, and maybe JSPL is leader in innovations, as you say. But we will definitely like to hear from Mr. Sharma what exactly you are doing and what are the initiatives. Mr. Alok, your take on the technology changes and how special steel is adopting, because I feel that the future of special steel is also dependent on how fast you adopt new technologies. This includes digitalization also. not only the green steel or not only hydrogen-based reduction and all. This also includes the subject of digitalization. How fast we are in adopting these new technologies.
We are in the right path to get a more technological induction in our the process and methods in the manufacturing also. And to best of my knowledge, all the alloy steel producers in India are well aware of what the technology they need further to take all the future growth in our fold. Okay. Now, for example, cold forging is a new coming area. So all the approval process across the alloy steel producers, they are focusing on those, and majority of the business of the cold forging are coming within the India. Likewise, the precision rolling, all are focusing on the precision rolling, and most of the investment has come in that particular section. So if it will show the consistency in their the performance of the material, then of course that demand will also come in our fold. Now, third is all the standards, international standards. More majority of the international standards we are meeting, but there is some gap as far as the specific technical parameters of the material are concerned. So those gaps we have to fill up. Still, there is a scope that the expectations of the world over is much more what we are producing as of now today. So this is the where my take that this definitely this is a must to induct. This is not this is we cannot avoid. If we want to take all the coming growths, we have to at par with the global supplier as far as technical parameters of material is concerned.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Alok. I would like to go to Dr. Dhawan, but before that, just I would like to put one point that even I would say that special steel sector is not getting enough technical manpower. You think about how many metallurgists are getting passed out from the engineering colleges every year. If you see that, and how many metallurgists still continue in this dirty sector in one way. So not many metallurgists now stick to metallurgy. They run away to IT industry. So Mr. Dhawan, how are we going to bridge this gap, and what is ASPA doing? ASPA should set up big training programs all over the country.
Can I very valid points. I think 2 points which you have come out. Let me reflect on both one by one. One, of course, when you were talking about technology, I think I have a very specific point after hearing Mr. Alok, Mr. Rajkamal, and the veteran Mr. Sharma. See, coming from a background of a pure small half-ton, 2-ton, 5-ton, 10-ton, 15-ton furnaces, which at the 30-ton furnaces, which when I started my career, I looked at those furnaces in my alloy steel plant, Durgapur, and similar way. We have come a very long way. And today, I think if you go by the type of plants are available for making alloy special steels, they are electric furnaces, not induction furnace, I won't say, but electric furnaces, electric arc furnaces, and also BF based with subsequent facilities. Now, if you, some of my friends and panelists did mention about demand vis-a-vis volumes and the growth in value vis-a-vis volumes. I think according to me, having spent so many years in this industry, right from associated with the production ministries and the end users. So the time would never be so good for alloy steel industries to take forward. 2 reasons. A, you have sufficient of iron ore, no depth of it. You have a tailor-made situation when you will not have the shortage of scrap, which is being imported today. Barring the alloys which are not available, rest all is available. I see nickel and chrome. The chrome is sufficiently here. Nickel is not there, maybe. But that shows, and somebody did mention that the labor is available, all other raw materials are available. That means we are in a time when the investment time is perfect. But here is I'll say disclaimer. Where will you invest? I think time is coming to look at the demand patterns of the consuming industries, preferences of the consuming industries, rather than just going by that it has to grow. No, it has to grow with consumer in mind, end user in mind, and the changing consumption in mind. Now, that is where I think that Mr. Alok has very clearly brought out the issues. Mr. Alok also has started, Mr. Sharma has mentioned. So there is, and everybody is fully aware of it, there would be investment in the right direction. And we'll also grow with the rest. Coming to your very important person, the issue of manpower, well, the 2-3 forums are also we are associated with, and we are talking to them, and to have this issue addressed is CII, FICCI, ECMA, SIAM. Everybody is looking into it, particularly the point which you mentioned about metallurgists. Well, many of our industries, including the big ones, have been taking up with the IITs and to the major institutes, including Tata's. Let me tell you, Tata's. The bigger ones are all there. You know, their need is much more there. I have seen the times in Talco or even SAIL or even in Jindals when they don't have a man for the iron making because the people have either retired or the flesh is not available. Yes, it's a very flag point you made, and we are all aware of it. There is a push from all forums to the IITs, to the the major technical institutes to revive the metallurgical sector. When we say metals and metallurgicals and mining, you know, it is not only steel, there are others also. Metallurgist does not deal only with steel, it deals with so many other metals also. So the others are also facing, because the institutions which they are not producing the right people, then there is a gap which will not go well with investment. We are fully aware of it, and we are also working out with various forums and platforms. Training of manpower. Training of manpower that you mentioned, I think it is more of an initiative of the individual industries also. I've seen many industries have taken, industry, when I say industry means plants, they have taken upon themselves to train their manpower in their own way, because of the technology, the culture, and the local environment in those areas, if it is in Odisha or in Raipur or in South. So they have taken upon themselves and addressing this issue. And I must assure you, this will be taken care of in future also. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Dhawan. I think I would like to share one thing. I was interacting with, Mr. Sharma, please.
On manpower training, one observation which I had when I was trained in France and Germany in early 80s or mid 80s, what I found that they have a training school for, training people for the level of like masons or crane driver or a melting people or technician. When I was in France in 80s, I found only one engineer in the entire steel plant. The number 2 was also a technician, you can say, who was number 2. All people, because once you have a computerization like we have today, and you make the process stable, and they have been told like a military person, what you have to do is you have to do. You have no shortcut. So you don't need a metallurgist. When I joined in 70s, when I used to come home, my wife used to ask, are you really an engineer? Because my clothes, even washermen used to refuse to wash because there was no, pollution control, no fume exhaust. You have to take bath for half an hour to even clean yourself. So that is not a situation. Today, at least I have seen in my plant where I am there, people come in uniform from home to the office and go in the same uniform back, without changing in the locker except for helmet or hand gloves or shoes. So I don't think the atmosphere is so dirty today, but you're right. When I have gone to campus interviews in 90s, or even 2000, what I find is only 2 last people left, all have gone to software. Even to software. So nobody will join the way we have joined. But let me tell you, you don't need a lot of people, metallurgists. You need only in quality control or product development or R&D, some qualified people. But others, the shop run even with a diploma or a ITI also, I would say. This is my
I was, sir, I was
Yeah,
interacting with one of
yeah,
the,
yeah, Chandekar. I'll,
yeah, just
I'll
a,
substantiate,
yeah.
I'll substantiate to Sharmaji's statement. It's
Uh,
not that the institutes are not producing this metallurgists, say IITs or all good NITs, etc.
hmm.
It is there. But see, the persons, the candidates who are qualifying, they are getting a white collar job and they are moving to all better and for better atmosphere and other things. But see, technological improvement has also taken place in steel manufacturing plants also, and overall climate is pretty healthy. Now things are again with all technological advancement, people are just sitting in within the closed chamber and they are operating, they are witnessing everything. So these things are also taking place. Only thing is now that communication has to travel, because everybody is carrying that old myth with respect to steel plants working. That communication need to travel down the line to the institutes and to the people and to the candidates who are qualifying.
I have 2 points in this respect. One, I was interacting with one of the HODs of metallurgy in IIT, one of the IIT. He was saying that there are no takers for metallurgy course, so we had to merge that with material science. So in most of the IITs also, the course is not called the metallurgy; it is called as metallurgy and material science. So that is one indication how less people are coming to metallurgy. Second point, my second point is, if we have to get good people and we want to retain metallurgists in our field, then we have to match the salaries also. You cannot have the salary structure of a steel plant and expect people to retain when they are looking for ITs and computer science as their future. So we have to improve upon our salary structure also. What do you say?
In last couple of years, the salary structure in the steel industry is reasonably good. I cannot say because I don't have a data to compare it with the other industry, but steel industry is already gearing up to have this kind of, say they are also identifying the fast track people, the people from premium institute, or the people from other institutes, all good big companies. They have these kind of classifications within their own working. So I don't think it's more a challenge to get people from premium institutes.
I think last
metallurgists are working in AC cabins, not in the shady shop floor rooms. What do you say?
Right.
Alok,
Right.
what do you say about the working environment in steel plants? You sit in AC cabin or you sit in a shady iron cabin in the shop, in sidelines of a shop floor?
Just for the information, I started my career in the workshop. I mean, in the plant in 96, 97. I used to be in the plant, and with my hands, I used to inspect the CRCA coils in a very bad environment. From there, I got the things. Then I moved in the marketing in 99, and this is the journey started. So the working condition in steel plants is not good as far as Indian context is concerned. But if we look at the global level, if you want to see one plant in Japan or in, for example, in China or in Germany, you'll find that this is not a steel plant. This is a working condition. The plant is so good, excellent, that we cannot compare. Second lookout is, in our Indian context, the commercial man is the powerful man as far as the command of the authority is concerned or something. But if you go in the Japan, for example, the hierarchy is the technical person is the most powerful person there. He takes the decision what to have the plan in the coming months or in the annual. What are the allocation would be. So their final say is the technical person there in Japan context. In our case, it is a commercial man who never had a hands-on experience or direct interaction with the plant, but he's taking all the decisions. That is a great demotivation for the newcomers who are coming in the steel sector. Once he gets, he is coming from the heaven to the very, in a very hell kind of the situations. Suddenly from the, when the parents told ki once you become an engineer, your life will be very, very, very fantastic. So once he get into that particular culture, he got why did I do this engineering?
On serious note, once upon a time, I remember chief metallurgist of a steel plant used to have a very high position. I mean, as Mr. Alok said, it could have assumed, highest powerful position as maybe editor in a publication. It was the last word in before some time. Have these people lost their charm? Have these people lost their power in the journey? What do you say, Mr. Rajkamal?
I think this is not industry specific, this is company specific. So I don't think still the technical people have their own charm, have own attraction and own delegation of powers. Only thing, the scale of economy has become different. And see, the organization, they have grown in or they are working in a flat manner, not in a conventional hierarchical manner. So the decision making for technical and for commercial people are little different. That's how I think. Okay. Because the volume, it has become a volume game. It is no more a small quantity. It's all millions of tons and all. So the decision making has to be in such a way where it is acceptable to people at large.
One angle just I want to add here in just further to Mr. Rajkamal. So what I'm just going to comment in next two sentence may not be very very charming for the owners. I'm sorry for that, but I'm sorry again. I'm feeling sorry for what I'm just telling right now. The 80% of the business, barring the Tata Steel, all the businesses are run by the driven by the owners, and they are mostly motivated by the commercial. So they like the commercial man in their board, in their in a cabinet, private cabinet. I can say not government cabinet.
Kitchen cabinet.
Not only commercial, I will say financial. Those who are chief, say chartered accountants, they are the guiding people or MBA. Not the technocrats now.
I think I will give a lighter side of it. Having been in the commercial, though techno-commercial part of it, both in the public sector as well as in the private sector, you will all agree that the fun thing is that the technical man can shift to the commercial, but commercial man cannot take over technical work. That is number one. So it is that way upgradation of a person. Second, the fellow who is there, day in and day out, he knows the next day he may not be there because he is always on the firing line. The pressure on him to get that extra rupee is on him, whereas the extra tonnage may come or may not come. So I think both ways it works. Today, when I look at things when it was 20 years ago and today when it is now, I think while commercial man position, yes, it could be pivotal because he has to look at purchase and pricing and this one. But technical person's place would always remain where it was. I think that position has not shifted.
Anyway, so let's move on, sir. A lot of discussion on this subject. Mr. Sharma, you want to add something? Very quickly.
Something. 30 years back in Japan, there was no MBAs on the shop floor or in the steel plant. It was basically people who are with experience were grown. Even a quality control manager will also have some shop floor experience before he goes to quality. So that was the difference which Alok mentioned. Other plants are run by MBAs or chartered accountant. Japanese always believed in hardcore steel makers only run the steel plant. That is a
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely right.
Just moving ahead now, we are coming to the close of this session. But before that, I would like to have one or two questions from the audience. There are on our chat box. What about the supply side? Are we not leading to excess capacity if JSPL and Monet enter in a big way in bar segment? Rajkamal, your question, please.
See, there is a sizable requirement even today. JSPL and Monet, if we are entering into a special steel segment, there is a lot of export potentials opening up. So I think there is always a scope for any new entrant. Once we are saying that we are multiplying our capacity all from whatever today is 7 million ton to 22 or 25 or 30 million ton, or 10% of 300 million tons. So there is a place for everybody.
Yeah,
Only thing is, only the fittest will survive, number one. Number two, who has done lot of technical upgradation and who can meet the stringent application requirement of the customer or OEMs or the exporters or the component maker will survive. So
absolutely.
there is a room for everyone.
I agree with you. I agree with you. One more question. Most of this capacity catering to commodity market, but if we see advanced material for critical applications, high-end applications, capacity is not enough. What
I think the import has sizably come down in last couple of years, which I shared in my previous comments also. And with this PLI scheme coming, where people are investing more and more money to be self-reliant, it is all mostly against this import substitute. I think Dr. Dhawan can further comment on.
Yeah. In fact,
See,
comment on
very
Mr. Alok
rightly,
only.
should I or later stage?
Yeah,
Should
yeah.
I?
Yeah, please, Dr. Dhawan.
No, very rightly mentioned the capacities, as in fact in my previous comments I had mentioned. Capacities will come only where it is needed now, and the industry is fully aware of where the surplus capacity exists. And believe me, the ministry themselves had interacted with the industry. And when I say industry, all our steel producers have been contacted, Mr. Goyal, Mr. Bhagwaj, Mr. Ramesh Yaswal, all of them are invited individually and collectively to take as to how to block this import. The whole thrust is on import substitution. Therefore, whenever there will be an expansion, it will be of two types. One is to replace all imports. Therefore, capacities will automatically come. In fact, now you will see after 1 year, the lot of capacity only to block whatever is being imported, whether it is bearing or whether it is tool or whether it is die steel or power, the train engine, everything. So, but at the same time, there is a huge requirement coming up for special quality wires, where the requirements are different. Then high carbon, low carbon. So all those are separately, they are with the volumes. So both ways, and nobody is going to put money just for the sake of it. It is going to come where it is needed too. The capacity which are already being there, it will not be, you see, there is, I think most of the panelists would say, there is a capacity gap between melting steel and rolling steel or finished steel. Now those have to be built up. If the demand comes, some additional facilities can be put in to make up, to increase those to meet the demand of the end product. Whereas melting capacity may increase, and wherever melting capacity is needed, the rolling capacities are there, the reverse will happen. So the industry is fully aware of where the money is to be put in, where the capacity is to be put in, so that we don't lead to an overcapacity, unutilized capacity, because unutilized capacity makes your steel uncompetitive. That is very important.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. Do we conclude, sir, that this capacity utilization in special steels is higher than the normal other steel sector, other categories?
I don't think, I think capacity is just.
By the logic of Dr. Dhawan, the capacity utilization should be very, very high. Supposed to be normal is what, around 78 to 80% in the whole industry. Ours should be 85 to 90%, isn't it?
80-85% of installed capacity, because always the installed capacity is based on some product which can be made more. So for most of the alloy steel plant, whatever is the rating, in a year, what they achieve is about 85% or so. Unless
so that is good. That is good. So that is higher than the normal capacity utilization in the country.
I will say the demands are little subdued. Maybe 5-10% we may be excess, but that is not much. I don't think that if we are competitive, I don't think any capacity is idle today.
Okay.
I think in last 2 years, the industry is operating largely to its capacity.
Okay.
But somebody has rated high, like 0.3 million. Well, it's only availability. If you calculate, he can make only 0.25 or 0.27, but he will say I'm 0.3 million because someday if he produces more, he need not go to the the pollution board or somebody to I remember when we expanded at Hospital Steel Mukund Kalyani joint venture, we were only at 6 lakhs ton, but we took everything to 7 million, and we did produce 58,000 in a month. So that way it is close to 7 million, 0.7 million.
7 million.
But you have to get, all the, otherwise somebody will come to you that how did you produce at the rate of 7 million, sorry, 0.7 million, you have only 0.6. So normally everybody takes little higher clearances for his, environmental or pollution capacity. Everybody. So if you go by that capacity, utilization may be 85-90%.
90%, yes. So we have, I think, exhausted our time, and I think during this last 1.5 years, we have touched upon all the dimensions. We have, touched upon the EV threat from EV and green steel and land acquisition, greenfield, brownfield expansion, future prospects, export potential, auto component export potential. So we FTA, FTA possibility and FTA effect on special steel sector. So I think more or less we have discussed everything about all dimensions. We have analyzed the industry from all sides, as far as I know. But I would still like to have last word from all our experts, and starting from Mr. Sharma and ending with Dr. Dhawan. So, Mr. Sharma, your expert comment. We have also analyzed technology and how fast we are in adopting new technologies and digitalization. Also, we have discussed. So, starting from Mr. Sharma.
I will say that see, most of the special steel which are produced today, everybody has a good equipment, ladle refining, vacuum degassing, good continuous casting with all the and good process control. I think everything is computerized today, and people have, with very few years of experience or few months of experience can produce good steel, provided they don't divert from whatever process are laid down. And one advantage of now Indian industry, as Mr. Bhardwaj explained in the inaugural session, is that our steel has very less trace elements, no arsenic, no antimony, no nickel, no copper. So we have a better quality, and whatever we need, we can add. So our alloy steels are well accepted by the industries outside. So the component industry is definitely developing. And my worries are only on one area, is how to reduce the CO2 emission or a carbon footprint. That is the only area of concern. Expansion or growing of specialist steel industry will not be an issue in India. This is my take.
Thank you. Obviously, you have expressed your concern about the technicalities, carbon footprint. That is very valid point, Mr. Sharma. Now I will move on to Mr. Rajkamal.
Yeah, having heard everybody and having covered by and large all the subjects, I always see a bright future, bright time ahead for next couple of years for special steel industry. I'll touch upon the point with respect to the legacy. Basically, the special steel industry has stored for last so many years. Now with the technological upgradation, people have worked a lot on cost of productions. Basically, people have worked on approvals, and it has emerged in such a way that by and large, whatever the new capacities, new facilities are coming, these are all the latest generation equipments which are acceptable not only to Indian OEMs but to OEMs globally. So a certain mindset change has taken place in the special steel industry, and I think all this is completely a change environment, change mindset, and which will take us to miles ahead, not only in the special steel industry, but as I said, that on what you call it is Atmanirbhar Bharat, or what you can growth of the domestic industry, and we will emerge as a potential supplier to entire world. See, today the gap between first and second is too big. Whatever we produce in a year, China produces in a month.
Yeah.
So the gap between first and two is too big. So basically, if we see, we have lots and lots of potential. And today we can't say it's a domestic industry. Wherever you are playing, it's a global industry. This globe is your basically play field. That's how I look at it. And I'm very optimistic for it. And we will find a place for everybody, for all expansions. And so all good to the industry, all good to the professionals. Thank you.
Thank you. Very optimistic view. So let's see what Mr. Alok has to say.
Yeah, first of all, this session is very interactive and very useful for all of us. And most of the subject and criticalities we have discussed, very open ideas we have shared. Now, my concluding remarks will be the same as what I had in my opening remarks. The concluding remarks will be the same as my opening remarks, that I am optimistic and very futuristic for the steel, special steels. So, what I can say lastly, what the others initiatives by the government and by the private players are in today's, for example, the mobility solutions, energy solutions, then water solutions. Likewise, we have to have approach sustainability steel solutions to meet the future fit products and services. We have to have a national collaborative approach so that our growth, which are almost in all the sectors, has to be the part of our growth rather than growth of the global players. For that, whatever the gap in the technical ground, what are the process, what are standards to be maintained, what are the investments, whatsoever it may be, though any of the other activities, that has to be focused and take as a serious note in our future course of action. So this is I'm very optimistic about this.
Thank you, Mr. Alok. So both our marketing stars are very positive, and they will definitely drive the industry forward. So let's have final word from Executive Director of Allied Steel Producers Association of India, Dr. Anil Dhawan.
Thank you for this opportunity. I think first, let me start with the very good initiative by the Steelworld. And having heard in the concluding remarks, I would only point out 2-3 major issues, or rather I'll say concluding points. One, of course, is that we have to make our own roadmap for growth. And that roadmap for growth for special steels will come through self-reliance, technological adoption, latest, and last but not the least, this particular industry, the alloy and special steel industry, which has been lacking so far, and that is on data monitoring and using it for its self-protection. For example, today I think there is hardly any mechanism to find out as to what is being imported in what form. We never discussed during this discussion how much auto components were being imported and are still being imported. Now that portion, we took it up with the government, and we are trying. So we must have an emphasis on true time data accumulation and analysis on what is the capacities available, what is the production being done in the past, what is the demand likely to be, and that too segment wise. It is not cannot be commodity, the general and all that. And then sales data. Sales data is, let me share with you, we have been facing a lot of issues in the past when we were fighting the anti-dumping duties. Expo fought the anti-dumping duties on behalf of producers, and the data was the real issue. So, and of course, now import. Yeah, just yesterday, Starwire and others, they said some superalloys are being imported, and these are the grades we have come to know. Now, how do we go to the government? So we have to create this in the special steel sector, this system of accumulating, analyzing, and using it for our own growth and sustenance. Secondly, the special steel segment, and now this is to people like you, sir. You are the leaders in the media, leaders in the communications of this information about steel. How much emphasis is given by this important your organization and other similar organizations, or bringing the focus to the issues of this industry to the concerned agencies? I think you must flag it down. Thirdly, lastly, which I must say, yes, the future is bright. There is going to be great scope for expansion of our segments beyond auto and defense, which we had been talking. There is a further scope for going beyond the boundaries. As everybody mentioned, we have been focusing on domestic because the domestic demand was there, and we were not able to give this, and it was being imported. Now that's reversed. Therefore, we have to go beyond boundaries. And if foreign direct investment is required into the country, we will have to collaborate with them, and emphasis on exports of alloy steel per se and auto components as another alloy steel intensive product. I think that should be the focus, and I think we will soon be meeting through your portal or whatever. See again to review what has happened.
Definitely.
More often you should bring us together. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you very much, Dr. Saab. And with this, we come to the end of this very absorbing and interesting session. I personally thank all the panelists, Mr. C.H. Sharma, Technical Advisor of SLR Metallics, Mr. Rajkamal Srivastava, President and Chief of Marketing at JSPL, Mr. Alok Vashishth, Head of Sales and Marketing at Kalyani Steels, and Executive Director of Alloy Steel Producers Association of India, Dr. Anil Dhawan. It was really very absorbing session, and thanks all the panelists for your extremely insightful, extremely knowledge-based inputs and insightful inputs. And I am very sure that the delegates and the attendees have immensely benefited from this expertise-oriented discussion. Thank you very much. And we will have a short break of half an hour and 45 minutes rather. And we'll again assemble at 2 o'clock for our first business session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chandekar. Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chandekar.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rajkamal. Catch up.